Magandang araw sa inyo lahat. Andito na naman tayo sa isa pang magandang usapan regarding crypto. And today I have with me a crypto lawyer and an author of 2 books on crypto. And the last one was Crypto and the Law, Attorney Rafael Padilla. How are you? How are you, Raf? Right?
Yeah, Raf. Just call me Raf. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Last time we met sa sa Boracay, if you remember. The conference organized by our friends from Pouch.
Yes.
That was March 2022, no?
Yeah, ang tagal na nun. Actually, that wasn't this year. That was last year.
Yeah, March, almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago na.
3 years ago, yeah.
So, but it's good that you're here. Ano mo, kasi maraming mga usapan with regards to crypto and Bitcoin sa Pilipinas. And when it comes to the law. And I figured the best person to talk about the law is somebody na may alam about crypto at saka ang batas.
Yeah.
Which is your book.
Thank
What is the book about?
So, Crypto and the Law. So we publish it. My publisher is Rex Bookstore. We published it October 2024. It's a textbook that focuses on the legal and regulatory aspects of crypto, and of course all the other verticals under it: blockchain, smart contracts, decentralized finance. And there is also a chapter there that I hope Bitcoiners will love, where I talk about the monetary law implications of Bitcoin. So that's in fact one of my favorite chapters. The book mostly are a collection of my notes for the past 10 years, specializing in this area. And some are also papers I wrote when I studied Masters of Law at San Beda University, where my research interest focused on crypto as well.
Wow, okay. Actually, that sounds like a very interesting book. And yung maganda dito sa usapan natin ngayong araw na to is we're gonna talk about yun na nga, the monetary system, the regulations. At saka sa Pilipinas, mainit ang usapan ng regulation.
Madaming nangyayari lately.
So we can start with that. And we're also gonna talk about yung Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. So, mainit tong usapan natin ngayon. But let's start with the hottest topic of all. The SEC in the Philippines has recently banned several crypto exchanges that are not regulated here in the Philippines. What's your anong take mo dito?
So you'll note these are all offshore crypto exchanges. To give the community some background, they might be familiar already about this, but June 2 months ago, SEC issued its regulation for crypto asset service providers, what they refer to as CASP, no? And what's notable there is they seem to have regulated crypto asset service providers sweepingly, regardless of whether they're engaged in securities related transaction, which is with due respect to our SEC, I'm not sure if it's actually legally accurate for them to be able to if they have authority to do that, because the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is a securities regulator. And not all crypto asset transactions are securities transactions, and not all crypto assets are also securities. You might see that in the United States, diba? For a very long time, this issue was controversial. And last term, during the administration of Gary Gensler, it was very aggressive doon sa kanyang enforcement by
crackdown.
Enforcement regulation by enforcement, regulation by enforcement. But there were already court decisions in the US District Court decisions clarifying the point na not all crypto assets and crypto asset transactions are securities transactions and are therefore within the regulatory scope of the SEC. And I have to highlight this because our securities law are patterned after federal securities law.
Okay.
So how it should be interpreted in the US, the fact that not all crypto assets are securities and not all crypto asset transactions are securities related transactions, should also be the position in the Philippines. In fact, as early as January 2018, in one public advisory of the SEC, the Philippine SEC, they've clarified that crypto assets, depending on the nature, peculiar facts and circumstances, could partake the nature of a security or investment contract, which therefore means that not all crypto assets
Right.
are securities. So to sweepingly regulate crypto assets as a security or as an investment, and to sweepingly broadly regulate all crypto asset service providers as securities intermediaries might be a wrong policy approach. I think so. Actually, not might be, but with due respect to our securities regulator, I think that should really be rolled back. No? And regarding that advisory that the SEC issued last month, and if you might have noticed also parang last week yata, or
Yes, nadagdagan.
nadagdagan na naman, di ba? You'll notice that these are all offshore crypto
Yes.
exchanges. And I wonder, how about the local crypto exchange? If it's true, as they say, that the SEC, that these crypto asset service providers should regulate with the SEC, then that rule should also apply both to not just offshore exchanges but also local exchanges. But the subject of the advisories are all offshore crypto exchanges, which somehow imply might give rise to an issue of selective enforcement
But the local ones are regulated, di ba?
by the BSP.
No, but they said they just want they want to be able to have them register with the SEC.
Yes.
Pag nag-register with the SEC, that's already the compliance that they want.
Yeah, but that seems to be problematic to me kasi dapat the rules should be applied uniformly to all crypto asset service providers, whether you're offshore or local. And then again, we're just assuming here that the SEC should regulate them.
To begin with, baka nga kasi they don't
as
have
I'm saying, which is again the position in the US, not all crypto assets are securities. In fact, kahit sila di ba, sila Commissioner Hester Peirce sa US, sinasabi nila, actually most of these transactions are not securities transactions, and most crypto are not securities and outside our remit. No, yun ang sinasabi ni Commissioner Hester Peirce, and dapat yun din ang maging policy approach dito sa Philippines. And then, as I was saying, but these local exchanges don't have registration yet also with the SEC, and how come they are not a subject of these advisories?
They're not regulated, but I thought they already had a CASP license.
Issued by the BSP.
The CASP license is issued
But
by...
these are actually virtual asset service providers,
Right.
because BSP regulates some of these activities as a money service business. On the part of the SEC being a securities regulator, they're interested to regulate these activities. And I'm not questioning here the authority of the SEC to regulate securities-related transactions. No? If crypto assets partake the nature of a security, as like what they said in that advisory back in January 2018, fine. As a matter of fact, I advise my clients to do that. No? If the tokens that they issue are also partake the nature of an investment contract, or if they somehow facilitate a securities-related transaction, that's what I would also advise the client. But to take this policy approach of like broadly requiring all crypto asset service providers, and not just crypto asset service providers, including those third-party marketers. Actually, there's a separate framework for that or a process. But effectively, pati sila ngayon kailangan mag-comply.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying the rules, and it seems I think just yesterday, the SEC had a webinar on this topic, and it looks like they're really committing to this policy.
Wow.
To regulate all crypto asset service providers broadly and sweepingly,
So,
without regard to whether they're engaging in a crypto asset, securities related transaction.
okay, so my first comment is when you mentioned nga that they did the sweeping regulation, is para sa akin it was lazy. It was lazy because hindi na nila tinignan yung mga iba't ibang factors that apply to each of these cases. They from exchanges to crypto assets to DEXs to tokens to everything. Talagang nilahat na nila.
Yes.
Even wallets, even like a MetaMask wallet, parang. And for me, that was the reason why I consider it lazy. Number one, or ignorance. I'm not sure if there's a lack of knowledge when it comes to this. And basta gusto lang nilang gawin lang to in this manner, shotgun approach, para lang they don't have to figure out all of the details,
Yes.
number one. Number two, yung isa pa nakita ko dito is the reason they're doing it. They're claiming it's for protection
Investor
of the
protection.
which I honestly think that that's the PR, but that's not really the reason.
Yeah, and it's also counterproductive if that's the battle cry of SEC, investor protection. But if you will immediately request the NTC, the National Telecommunications Commission, to order internet service providers or ISP to block these exchanges, what's happening is you're restricting the ability of those users to withdraw their funds.
Yeah.
So they're basically stuck. And so, yung gustong iwasan ng SEC na ma-protect yung assets ng mga investors, actually lalo pa yatang napasama dahil ngayon locked out sila.
Yun.
Sa sa funds nila because users could no longer access their exchange accounts.
Yeah, and I wanted to also bring up this point that you mentioned, para alam ng lahat. When you talk about are they security? No, Bitcoin is considered a commodity. Paki-define na lang for everyone. Ano bang parang stipulations for something to be considered a security?
Okay.
As simple as possible.
Okay. There is a statutory definition under Section 3.1 of the Securities Regulation Code. No? Pero makikita mo doon sa definition, first of all, they define what a security is. Talks about like an investment in a corporation or a profit-making venture. Talks about those types of activities. And then it gives an example of different types of securities. And the classic example, of course, are our shares of stocks and bonds, no? But you also have investment contracts, no?
Right.
And the investment contract as a concept is broad. We get that, we understand that, and we don't question that. That is exactly why crypto assets can become and can be considered as a security, no? Applying this so-called Howey test. I think yung audience natin, community natin, familiar sa Howey test eh. But just very very briefly, this is a complex test that we utilize to analyze whether something might constitute, an arrangement might constitute an investment contract. It involves an analysis of whether there is an investment of money coupled with whether that investment is in a common enterprise, whether there's also an expectation on the profits of the person who invested money, and whether that investment or the profits are derived from the efforts of the issuer. It's really a complex test, but that's also why we admit that assets can be considered as security under this broad investment contract. And we don't question that it's broad because it's designed to be broad talaga. But problem is because of the broadness of investment contract, SEC will now sweepingly consider all crypto assets as an investment contract and therefore a security, which is a wrong approach. Kasi remember that they need to make that analysis bearing in mind specific facts and circumstances, economic realities as well. That's why you cannot just box all crypto assets in this category of security. So what should have been the correct approach, and this is what they're doing in the US, is we assess in each particular circumstance whether a specific crypto asset is a security or whether that transaction is a security or whether this crypto exchange is offering a securities related transaction. But we don't, even in the US, that's not their policy to require all exchanges to register with the SEC, understanding that not all these transactions are securities-related transactions.
Interesting. Okay. So ngayon, sa akin, ang pinakamasama dito sa nakita kong ginawa ng ating SEC, for me, is yun na nga, they're not protecting the consumer. Because by actually restricting the access to all these foreign exchanges, they're limiting our choices, and I think that actually
anti-competitive.
Yeah, not just anti-competitive. I think it's parang they're going against the freedom of the consumer. Isn't there like a Consumer Protection Act that protects us from the government restricting our choice to be able to pick what we want to pick in terms of usage?
Yeah.
Kasi dito ang problema natin ay nakikita ko sa mga local exchanges, they're not competitive enough.
Agree.
And not only are they not competitive, if you're talking about consumer protection, mas mataas ang liquidity ng mga foreign exchanges na to.
Yeah.
So you're safer with the foreign exchange and with the local exchange that could collapse because they don't have enough liquidity.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's so bogus for the SEC to say that, oh, we're doing it to protect the consumer. I would rather they just come out straight and just say, we're doing it because we need to make money. Yun ang isa. Yun ang nakikita ko. And I'm a little bit more, I guess, combative or about this, or more assertive about this point, because as a consumer myself, nakikita ko ang dami talaga na affect dito, and I don't see the SEC doing their job on behalf of the consumer. Yon. So it feels the other way around.
Yeah, one thing we have to point out, since you've mentioned your concerns regarding a consumer, is we want to clarify that regardless of the fact that the SEC has also already issued advisories regarding certain exchanges, no? Dami na, parang 15 plus na yata,
Yes.
no? Just want to remind na you as a user, you still have a choice. It's not illegal for you to utilize these exchanges if you want to. So nasa sa iyo pa, choice pa rin as to these exchanges have been blocked, right? The websites, no. As to how you will be able to access them, that's up to you. But just want to assure that they're not committing any illegal activity by doing so. So bahala na sa. You might notice nga pala, the websites are blocked because the SEC has coordinated with the NTC.
Yes.
So that the NTC can order ISPs,
Yep.
internet service providers, to block these websites. Hindi pa natin na pag-uusapan yung legality nitong na to, whether the NTC has the statutory authority to order ISPs to block those websites. But let me just say, mapapansin mo, most na itong mga block na exchanges na to, available pa rin yung application nila
Yes.
sa Apple and sa Google.
Yes.
And what we have observed is the SEC has actually requested Google and Apple to remove these applications from their respective app stores. These app stores, of course, observing due process, requested the affected exchanges, exchanges, to comment on this. And we appreciate that these platforms are more censorship resistant.
Yes.
That since the SEC cannot clearly justify the legal basis, statutory basis for them to request the removal of these applications from their respective app stores, then they're not complying with SEC's order. And you see, wala naman tayong nakikitang issuance ng SEC na sinasabi na Apple and Google are like violating Philippine securities law because they're allowing these exchanges to still be listed on their to be available on their respective app stores.
Yeah.
So what I just admire for this for yung sa mga app stores natin is that they're really very vigilant in ensuring itong natin yun yung censorship resistance.
Yes.
Because you see, it might still be possible if the SEC wants to have those applications removed from the app stores, or for the website to be blocked, no? But they cannot do that unilaterally.
Yeah.
They need a court order for that.
Oh, they need a
Yes,
court.
they need a court
even
order for
with
that.
the NTC.
Oh yeah, that's exactly my point. NTC actually does not have the authority to order the blocking of the blocking of websites of internet service providers, because it's not there in their you see here in the Philippines, so administrative agencies, regulators have limited powers. They cannot just do everything that they want, even if they say that it's for investor protection. Their authorities, powers, and functions are limited by the laws that created them. And if you find the law that created the NTC, doesn't give them an authority to just sweepingly block websites. May exception dyan pagdating sa child pornography. But
Right.
that's because we have a law that authorizes the NTC to order ISPs to block websites that have content that yun ang contains nga yung mga online sexual
Yes.
activities involving children. or mga child, in general terms, child pornography. And I don't think we can question that because of the compelling state interest to protect the interests of children. But for something as vague as investor protection and with no clear statutory authority, both kay SEC and kay NTC, to order the blocking of websites, of exchanges, where it's not even clear whether they're engaged in securities-related transaction.
Okay.
That's really problematic.
Sige, so here's a good question for this. Why can't we, you're an attorney, why don't we file a TRO right now?
Well,
why don't we?
Well, two angles here. Because that is indeed a possible legal remedy on the part of the exchanges that are affected. Okay. Another possible angle is for the concerned citizens, affected users or trader, to apply for that. No? So, as an option, that is really possible. As to why that is not happening, just really difficult to speak. Why some of the exchanges are not resorting to these legal remedies, or perhaps for the concerned citizens, affected users, we really have to perhaps consolidate them, and marami pang kailangan pag-usapan. But that is indeed an available remedy for them.
I'm just wondering why not like me personally. I say, hey, Attorney Rafael, pwede bang padala tayo ng request? What is it? Request to the Supreme Court, or I don't know what it is.
Okay, remedies natin.
Pwede ba natin gawin yun? Like, even if it's just me, not collectively, kaya ba?
So, procedurally, that's possible, but not direct to the Supreme Court.
Who?
Okay. One is, if you're talking about injunction, since you mentioned TRO, temporary restraining order, under the Securities Regulation Code. Of course, there will be details, and me and my colleagues, mga professional colleagues, lawyers, will have to study the matter. We'll study the cause of action. But just broadly speaking, it is possible for you to apply for an injunction with the Court of Appeals. Okay. That's one avenue or one potential remedy. Basically, you can assert that the SEC has no authority to restrict you from accessing your assets that are deposited in these exchanges, and the SEC has no authority to do that. But the order of the SEC is preventing you from access. So you're directly injured by this arbitrary enforcement action.
Right.
Another possible remedy is for you, medyo technical na if you don't mind, no? But the jargon that we use, we describe this as a petition for declaratory relief. The concept of a declaratory relief of this remedy is for you to request the court to basically interpret possibly a law, but in this case, the regulation issued by the SEC, the memorandum circulars, they issued 2 memorandum circulars on crypto asset service providers. And because of the fact that you are directly injured or will be directly injured by this enforcement action, if the SEC proceeds to enforce these rules, it's possible for the court to give a judgment on how the crypto asset service provider guidelines should be interpreted. And basically, they will look into whether the SEC has statutory authority to regulate crypto asset service providers, again, broadly and sweepingly, bearing in mind what I'm saying earlier, that a government agency cannot just do whatever they want. Their authority is limited by the law that created them. So they have to find a statutory authority. Otherwise, without clear statutory authority, the agency is exercising powers that are beyond its authority, what we in law refer to as ultra vires.
Okay.
And these similar issues have arose na rin in the US relation to some enforcement actions of the SEC in the past. I just think that the SEC should learn from this lesson. No?
I think that they should learn from the US. Seeing how the US, the previous administration, the SEC of the previous administration, attacked a lot of the crypto asset the exchanges and the wallets, and na-reverse din yung mga
and I really wonder why, because as far as I know, and even by tradition, Philippine SEC would from time to time refer or look into what the US SEC is doing. And they're not just gonna blindly adhere to what the US SEC is doing, but somehow that is persuasive. Somehow I'm optimistic that with Chairman Francis Edlim at the helm, magbago yung policy ng Philippine SEC. And I say this because Chairman Francis Edlim is actually studied Masters of Law in the US.
Okay.
And of course, I presume that he is well oriented with federal securities law. Yeah, at some point, he was like president and CEO yata ng Philippine Stock Exchange. Very market oriented. And speaking of market oriented, the Philippine SEC's battle cry is always investor protection. I guess we have to remind the Philippine SEC that in Section 2 of the Securities Regulation Code, another important mandate that the law directs the SEC is to ensure the promotion of free market. And because of that important principle, dapat binabalance ni SEC.
Yeah.
At kung hindi malinaw ang kanyang regulatory authority, dapat I think the SEC should step back, or if it wants to, ask the Congress to amend the law. Kasi it's very undemocratic for them to sweepingly regulate crypto assets as security, or crypto asset service providers as securities intermediary.
Okay.
When the law itself does not say that.
Right. So in that case, would it help if I actually say met with a member of Congress or Senate?
Sila?
Me. Like if I needed to get the SEC to take out this restriction, if I had a member of Congress or Senate,
that's really possible, because I think that's one possible channel for both for the industry more specifically and to the crypto trading community more generally, to talk to lawmakers and look into this issue, because I think we really need some congressional intervention here. Because I think the the Congress and of course the appropriate committee, palagi naman nilang kausap kasi palagi naman silang pinapatawag sa ng Banking and Finance Committee. I'm not sure naman kung bakit sa halip na they ask for regulatory authority when it comes to crypto assets, is they proceed to do this. It's not up for them to just regulate, because if you ask our lawmakers, we're the ones who should dictate the policy on this. Who knows? Baka they might prefer that we create a separate agency for this, just like what Dubai has done, by introducing creating the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, VARA, no? Pwedeng ganyan ang gawin natin, but it's not for the SEC
to decide or to even do.
Kasi ang SEC is an enforcement body. They enforce and execute the Securities Regulation Code and other laws that of course the Congress instructed them to enforce, such as the revised corporation code. But in the absence of explicit authority to regulate digital assets and crypto asset service provider, I think they should magdahan-dahan sila.
Okay. So, just to simplify what you said, and to just summarize what you said, sinasabi mo dito that the SEC, there is no explicit law that actually instructs them to do what they did. And they overstepped the interpretation and went beyond what they actually have the authority to do with what they did sa pagtanggal sa pagban nitong mga to. And the NTC also overstepped their authority by doing what they did, because they should not even have blocked it or listened to the SEC. Tama, di ba?
Yes, overstep is correct way to describe it, but we have a stronger word. We've been in the receiving end of this for several years. Regulatory overreach.
Regulatory
overreach. Doing something that is outside their remit or their statutory authority.
Okay. So, okay, good. So, I'm glad we talked about this. At I'm sure marami sa inyo na nakanood na to na baka nako-confuse pa, no? Pero ang maganda lang dito is malinaw that what the SEC did is an overreach. Malinaw yon. So, what I'm gonna do on my end, I'm gonna find out who's in charge of the Committee on Finance and Banking. Tama yung bang,
I think so,
Okay.
Should be the committees on banking and finance.
All right, for Congress or Senate. Hanapin natin yon.
House of Representative and the Senate.
Sige, hanapin natin yon at maganda sigurong
they should look into this one.
They should look into it.
Interesting Representative Joey Salceda, we know him, economist, very influential. Last Congress, he was the chair of Committee on Ways and Means. He actually proposed a resolution calling for legislative hearing investigation to look into these issues. May isa pang ang issue dyan pagdating sa regulatory overreach, pati si BSP. In the same manner, BSP is regulating virtual asset service provider broadly and sweepingly as as a money service business, which might not be accurate as well.
Yes.
And so there is a proposed hindi lang pumasa yung resolution na yun, but somehow that will tell you that there are some lawmakers who are already sensitive and are aware of this issue, and just really might be a matter of time for us to be able to persuade some lawmakers to look into this issue.
In the meantime, do you think simultaneously, yun na nga, mag-file tayo for a TRO? Or do you think this is a good step without the TRO? Pwede bang gawin yung dalawang steps na yun?
I think though both channels can be considered by the affected parties. Those two channels can be explored, no?
At the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Pwede natin na kausapin na natin yung mga lawmakers natin about this issue. Pwede rin na, again, this is a legal matter. So, marami lang tayong parameters, conditions, procedural requirements, as well as cost of action that need to be crafted. Medyo detalyado lang yan. But just saying, broadly speaking, that this is a remedy that can be pursued both by the affected exchanges or by the affected users.
Sige, good. So yes, we will do that. Kasi like for me, as a user, we're all users, diba? We're more affected than the exchanges. These exchanges, they don't care. I think that for them, pag tinignan mo, the Philippine market is such a small market compared to their overall market.
Yeah.
Na parang sa kanila, takes out a little bit from the top end, but it's not enough for us to worry about.
Yeah. I said earlier, hindi pa binablock hindi pa nire-remove ng Apple, no? And ng Google Play Store yung mga apps na to. But on its own initiative, Kraken geo-block Philippine users from their application.
Why would they do that?
Perhaps in compliance with this,
Wow.
without really looking into whether this is legal or not.
Kumbaga, inunahan na nila.
And for Kraken kasi, I think they're being more careful because the rumors are they're positioning preparing for an initial public offering. So I think they're starting to if something is not clear to us, better just block it.
Okay.